Next up is Michael Mark talking about cops in the community.
Afternoon, everyone. As you introduced me, I'm Michael Mark, and my speech is on cops, community, and cooperation. So, what I want you to do is think in your mind the mainstream image of everyday heroes. What do you see? Is it something like this? Servicemen, police officers, children, smiling faces? For me, it is. And then I turn on the news and I see this. And I start to get confused. And then I find I'm not the only one confused. As the poet Buddy Wakefield says. And then I started to do a little more research, and I went through social media, and I found comments like this, where it's an everyday woman talking about a faculty meeting and says, "Realized I feel really uncomfortable around cops." And kept doing a little more research, and I Googled heroic police officers, and what did it return? 655,000 results. Then I Googled corrupt police officers, and what I get? Literally 10 times the number. So, are cops good or are cops bad? And that's what I began to wonder, and as I questioned, I realized cops are human, and humans are neither inherently good nor bad. As Philip Zimbardo helps represent with his Stanford prison guard experiment. In this situation, he turned the Stanford psychology basements into a mock prison, took 24 average college students and made 9 of them prisoners, 12 of them guards, and the other 3 were on-call guards. And for prisoners, they were given numbers, and they were given hair nets to simulate the removal of hair as one goes into a prison. And the guards were given sunglasses and uniforms that helped them create an identity together and also remove them from their identity of self. And what he watched was pretty horrific, as these average college students forced prisoners to simulate sodomy and other heinous actions. And so I find that our cops are good paradigm comes from experiences of identification. And for instance, this is an image of one of my first graffiti works that I ever did. And my graffiti career was short-lived, considering I got caught on my 3rd time, literally red-handed. So as I got caught, the officer looks at me like, what are you doing? And I explained to him, I love hip-hop and I love graffiti, and I just want to see this culture flourish. And at that moment, I shifted his paradigm. He no longer saw me as a deviant and a vandal. He saw me as a teenager who's slightly confused and not sure of what's happening. And it helped me. I got off the hook because he helped me. He helped to connect with the business owners, and then I apologized, and I repainted the walls, and everything's said and done outside of the court of law. But then we have instances with experiences of otherization, and this is where cops are bad comes from. For instance, this is a clipping from the LA Times, and in this place, Teneja, Texas, it's a small town near the border of Louisiana. And in this small town, the police officers were pulling over minority motorists and out-of-town motorists, and when they'd find substantial amounts of assets on their possession, they would take them into the station and then force them to sign a document saying they would forfeit their assets, or face falsified charges of money laundering, and in one instance, they even threatened to take a couple's children away. And so, what is happening? And I realize a lot of what we do is based on our outmoded policies. And the one policy that I'll cover is the drug war. Here's a quote from H.R. Halderman. This is Nixon's right-hand man, and this describes the motives behind the drug war. It's a pretty grim reality. And then we look at graphs of our inmate population to the total, it's the percentage of inmate population to total population. And if you notice in 1970-71, there was somewhat of a low point. And then with Nixon's administration of the war on drugs and then Reagan's administration of his conservative policies, we've seen a spike in our inmate population. And ironically, at the same time, we've seen decreases in violent crimes. 1 in 20. We represent 5% of the population of the world in America. However, a quarter of that inmate population in the world is represented by America. And at the same time, blacks represent 12% of our population in America, yet 44% of the inmate population. So if you look at it in terms of the motives, according to Thurman, it seems as if this is working. And I'm not the only one who thinks things are wrong here. There's an activist organization, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, and they seem to agree, saying these policies criminalize ordinary people and throw them in these sorts of institutions where they live a life like this. And I think it's safe to say that the survival mechanisms necessary for prison life aren't totally compatible with everyday life. And so where do we go from here? Well, I have 3 suggestions. First, I found it interesting that the leader of Bhutan mentioned measuring gross national happiness rather than gross domestic product. And I think this provides a profound paradigm that if we simply start observing other variables, we can change our system. So rather than micromanaging crime rates, what if we watch for safety rates and how comfortable people felt? And then, on top of that, our internal affairs is who's investigating injustices in the police world, and that's police investigating police, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But in Australia, this is the logo of the Police Integrity Commission, and the Police Integrity Commission serves to investigate police misconduct and prevent police misconduct. I think we need an organization like this that's separate from the police. And also, as everyday citizens, I think it's important that we use our technology and our communication devices to help keep track of public officials. There are often videos of brutality where you'd see police officers telling citizens and bystanders, put that away, put that away. However, that's not allowed. We have the right to film and record our public servants, and I think it's imperative that we do so in order to manage their accountability. And so at Cop Out Collective, our goal is to see our interactions with police end like this less often, and like this less, and like this more often. If you agree, connect with us, these channels, and that's all I have for you guys.